We'll do a roll call first. Rebecca Hanson is here, Chris Buckley, Bill Bolton, I'm Steve Rhodes, and Brian Murphy is our town planner. Quick review of the minutes of the work session. There's not much there because we had a audio device failure of some sort. Anybody have any comments on those minutes? Does anyone think we need to expand those minutes beyond their current state?
No.
Yes, we're good to go. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The minutes have been passed. Okay. Any public comments unrelated to tonight's agenda? I'm seeing that we have 3 site plan reviews to do tonight. And just to remind everybody, the first step is the board decides whether the application is complete. Then we ask the applicant to make a short presentation. The board comes back with questions. And then we open the public hearing. And then we close the public hearing, comes back to the board for more questions. And we vote either to accept or not accept or postpone the application. So if you're going to speak tonight, even if you're just making a comment, you need to come up to the microphone because these hanging mics evidently are not working at all. So if you say something back there, it does not become part of the public record. So you need to come up and use the mic. Okay, the first thing we have up is Harbor Homes. And we've got our application. And I don't see any waivers, or any waiver requests on that. Any questions from the board on the completeness of the application?
I move to accept this application as complete.
In second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the application has been completed. Mr. Lewis, are you
Yep, I'm ready.
ready to
Just gonna
tell us
pass
what's
out
going
a
on?
Colored rendering of this is the same as the information that is changed, it's just a colored version of the plan, which I have on the board.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. My name is Jeff Lewis from North Point Engineering. My colleague Ian McGregor from my office is also here with me tonight, who helped work on this project. And Peter Kelleher from Harbor Homes, who's the applicant, and Brad Westgate from Wine & Bennett, who's the attorney for Harbor Homes, also here accompanying me. So I thought I'd give a brief overview of the project. I think everyone here, and I'm not sure about everyone in the audience, but I'm kind of operating on the assumption that people are generally familiar with the project, so I don't get into too much unnecessary detail, but give you an overview. I know I was here last month for conceptual discussion, discuss the project, give you an overview, and then turn it over to Peter, who can better describe to you folks and to everyone here what Harbor Homes is, who they are, what they do, and what they're trying to do here up in Plymouth. And I'm sure there'll be some questions maybe you folks have for him about Harbor Homes. So basically, this project has been kicking around for over a couple of years. I've been involved in it for, this will be the third straight year. This site has come before the planning board. It was previously known as Soldier On, which was a proposed 54-unit veterans housing, permanent veterans housing project on the same parcel of land, which is 12 acres up at the end of Boulder Point Drive, just to the uphill side of the Walmart site. This whole effort has been led by a local group here, and in town of local folks who've been trying to get this project off the ground here for a number of years. Soldier On was the outfit out of Massachusetts that was expected and hoped to be able to move this thing forward for the last couple of years. They, for 2 consecutive years, ran into roadblocks with their federal funding that they were trying to get through a very competitive process. And we're not able to move forward. We were very optimistic last year at this time that project would be able to move forward, but it didn't get the funding that it needed to move forward. So the project seemed to be dead in the water, and there was a connection made to Harbor Homes from the local group here, I believe through the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, who kind of put the right folks together. And Harbor Homes and Peter and his group came in here really at kind of the last minute in the late part of the winter and early part of the spring to try to salvage this project, and some of the credits and funding that has been in place that was secured by Soldier On to allow the project to move forward. So they put together a team which included us, because we've been involved in the project, and the architect, and really try to scramble to come up with a plan that meets the Harbor Homes model for addressing permanent housing for veterans, which is a little different than what Soldier On was. And that's the plan we have before you tonight. I brought the previous plan, which is down here, which was the 54-unit residential institution plan, which is an approved plan by the planning board from last summer, and the current plan, which is the 30-unit apartment building that Harbor Homes would like to do. So they're similar in the nature of the development. This is actually a little bit smaller scale because it's fewer units. It's a little bit smaller overall footprint. It doesn't stretch out into the site as much, but it's the same concept. We're coming in here with an access drive off of the end of Boulder Point Drive, similar to what was proposed before. We have some parking proposed here, and a building which is a 2-story, 30-unit building. It'll be predominantly 1-bedroom units. There'll be a handful, I think maybe 4 or 5 two-bedroom units in there. And it's intended to serve the homeless veterans up in this part of the state. And Harbor Homes will be managing and operating the building and working directly with them, and I'll let Peter speak to that a little bit more. As far as the site itself, we are proposing a couple areas of what we'd like to do is get some covered parking in here, so there's at least one covered parking space, like a carport style parking space, 1 per unit, and then some guest and visitor parking and additional parking on the interior in here. I would point out right now that we've identified that as an option. We would like the board to approve the plan with the carports being there, but it's going to be a really come down to the site cost issue, whether or not they can construct those now. So if they determine that they can't pull off the project with those, they would just pave the parking spaces. So it's possible in this first phase of the project, if we can get this going, that these would just be paved open parking spaces right now, and they could maybe come back at a later date and install the carports. But that is the desired option, is to get some covered parking in there. We also have a maintenance shed out here, which is, I think, self-speaking, and then a small greenhouse with some outdoor gardens out here for the residents, and then a patio area in the back of the building. And then we have just some landscaping in here that we've tried to do, to make it to make it nice. The whole area, as you may recall, is all open right now. It's the construction yard that's being used by Andrews Construction. There's stockpiles all over the place. So all the trees have been cut down. We'll have to take down a few trees to widen the driveway in here, but for the most part, the trees it's all cleared. So we'll come back in and try to add a little landscaping in there. Again, the construction cost is a big deal right now, so we're going through the process of the design of the building right now, and need the numbers to come in right in order for this thing to get off the ground this fall. The timeframe for construction is starting construction as early as late September, early October. And I guess I should back up. The critical path kind of is for them to get through the permitting process, which would be, we've already been to the zoning board. This project required a relief from the zoning board for the use of the multifamily building. So we were there a month ago and got that. I guess 2 months ago. We were before you folks last month for conceptual. We're hoping we can walk out here tonight with an approval. They really need the appeal period to pass from the planning board approval in order to initiate the next step, which would be the closing and purchasing the property from Brian Young, who's the current property owner. And that would really allow them to move forward with the construction this fall. They need to get this project done by next summer and have it open for next summer. So they need to really get in the ground as soon as we can this fall. And that's all related to securing the available, funds and financing on the project. So, we have drainage on here. Again, we have a stormwater retention basin. It's the exact same design as we had on the previous plan. I know these plans have gone to Mike Vignali, the town engineer, for review, and he hasn't had a chance to get back at this point, but the overall design is very similar to the previous plans. I expect that he may have some things he wants us to tweak or take a look at, and I'm perfectly comfortable addressing whatever comments he has, since this is the third time that he's looked at that. There is an alteration of terrain permit in place for DES for the old project. We've submitted a new application to them last month for this, so we expect to have that in hand in August. Again, I don't expect there to be any issues with that. It's the same project, the same drainage design, so there shouldn't be any issues there. We did also meet with the Conservation Commission, or I met with the Conservation Commission last month to discuss we do have a small area up here where the proposed driveway needs to cross through conservation easement that's on the property. They're very receptive to this project. We need written permission from them to build that driveway. So they granted that. They unanimously approved the crossing of that for this project. We also talked with them a little bit about the idea of maybe having a sidewalk through there. There was some discussion that we had about sidewalk access. So we have not proposed a sidewalk. As I think I may have mentioned to you last month, we're very concerned about the site costs right now. What we have done is we have graded kind of a platform in on the north side of the driveway, on the back side of the curb, so that there's enough room that there could be a sidewalk just paved in there without disturbing any other area in the easement. Our preference would be to not have to do that now, and if there is a plan that comes in later for sidewalk to be installed on Boulder Point Drive, then there'd be an easy option to do a paved sidewalk. And we wouldn't have to go back to, anybody. The Conservation Commission has included that in their approval, that we could add a sidewalk if we need to. So I think we're just trying to tee that up for a future time to make it easy to do, but would prefer not to invest in that at this time. I think that's the highlights of the site. I guess if you have questions for me on that, I could take those, or I can just turn it right over to Peter. I'd like him to just describe to you in his words what Harbor Homes is. Does that make sense?
Sure, let's do that.
Good evening. Thank you, Jeff. My name is Peter Kelleher. I'm the CEO of Harbor Homes, an organization that's been around since 1980. And I've been actually the first employee. I've been there for 35 years now. And our organization for the past 15 years has been very dedicated to trying to find ways to end veteran homelessness in New Hampshire. Across the country, there have been more than 30 communities that have already declared what's known as an effective end to veteran homelessness. And recently in Nashua, where we have most of our programs right now, we also have been certified by the federal government as having achieved that. And we would also hope that this part of the state and other parts of the state could also achieve that same benchmark. Harbor Homes has developed about 5 different properties over the last 15 years to assist homeless veterans and their families. Generally, we serve honorably discharged homeless veterans, and we provide not just the housing, but the supportive services necessary to ensure success. If you walk into our agency, you'll see a big formula on the wall that says housing plus integrated services equals success. And that's been our mantra, and it's worked very well. We have numerous examples of veterans and their families that have gone through our programs and have lived very effective and successful lives. Last year, we served about 750 veterans, and we would intend to base on the site what's called an SSVF case manager. That stands for Supportive Services for Veterans and Families. This is a program that we operate statewide, that we provide prevention services to veterans and their families and other supports so that they are able to maintain and keep their housing. I will tell you that I work very closely with the Bridge House and Kathy here and others who have really noticed the clear present need for veterans in this community. I track very carefully the number of homeless veterans that are in emergency shelters throughout the state of New Hampshire. Last night there were 25 veterans in the 38 shelters across New Hampshire, and we're absolutely sure that veterans would thrive and be thrilled to live in this community. And we very much hope that you will find this is a project that will be good for the community and the veterans who have sacrificed so much for our country. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Is the board, before we get started, actually, we have a review from the Highway Department. We took a look at the plans, and Jeff, have you seen this yet? No. You have not, okay. I'm going to read it out loud, and then I'll pass it over to you. So the concern is 30 or more cars impacting the flow of traffic on Boulder Point. Also, Boulder Point is in need of overlayment of asphalt sooner than later. There are issues of traffic overshooting the road when turning out of the crossover of Walmart. Should possibly be a wider shoulder over Walmart. In wintertime, cars seem to slide at the last of the downhill turn, and possibly redesign the flow. May need guardrails. Ponding water at all times at the base of hill exiting onto Tenny Mountain Highway. So those are things that I think speak more toward the road downstream of you guys. But
Yeah, I would, I think most of those are just existing issues on Boulder Point. It sounds to me like there's some maintenance issue out there and things that they've identified need to be done. I mean, the fact is, we're going to be the smallest, least intense use on that road, I think without a doubt. So with 30, I don't know if there'll be 30 cars, but there'll be 30 units or 30 people with cars, and that will pale in comparison to the other uses out there. So I'm not sure that there's much we can contribute to improvements on Boulder Point Drive.
okay. Another note here from Joe Fagnan. He says, I would like some assurance that the roof structure and parking lot runoff can handle tying into the existing storm drain. He also says any crushables on site may be disposed of in town. Just call the highway department. I'm not sure what that means exactly. But in the first case, I believe all of your runoff goes into the detention pond, is
Yeah,
that
and
correct?
all of our runoff goes into our on-site detention pond, 100%. None of it will go to Boulder Point Drive.
Okay, here's his second comment. And you'll have to check with him to see what he means about crushables as a part of the construction process, I guess. Questions from the,
I believe one of those was for the second project up tonight. That would be the crushable one, I think.
what's
That's
that for?
the St. Matthew's Parish Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you, Brian. So that, ignore all that. Back to the board for any questions on the site of the project? Go.
I got a couple. The first one, I just had a concern that, that Harbor Homes could take advantage of the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing vouchers, but I guess considering that's what you do, I'm certain that you can. Okay, and I just wanted, that's the continuum that you'll be able to, use that in your, yep. And, thank you. And the other one, regarding the sidewalk, could it just like appear on the plans and at least to indicate that it's like on a wish list and,
Yeah.
to be addressed when funds, allow, and similar to the roofed parking areas and.
I don't have a problem with that. We've basically done that. So we have it in our drawing, so we can show it on the plan as a sidewalk or a future sidewalk, as long as there's a, acknowledgement right now that we're not intending to, committing to build that now. That's fine.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer to see it up here on a plan.
That's fine, yeah.
The only reluctance I have to just putting it on the plan is that if it's not required at this time, there are absolutely no assurances or perhaps even likelihood that it will ever be put in. And I think when you've got a residential complex that is close to at least 5 consumer retailers in healthcare, Tractor Supply, Walmart, in the dentist area, there's going to be people walking from this residence to those businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And in the wintertime, they're going to be in the road. In the summertime, they can walk on the grass verge, true. But in the wintertime, they're going to be in the middle of the road. So my preference would be to see you guys economize elsewhere in the project and put the sidewalk in out to Boulder Point. That's my opinion.
I think part of the problem is there is no sidewalk on Boulder Point Drive, but we have to start somewhere with a sidewalk and think about future use and what's happening beyond this site later on, or what might happen to this site in the future as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a chicken and egg situation. You have to start building sidewalks somewhere.
Yeah, we've had this conversation 2 years ago at the planning board, and the direction was it's a sidewalk to nowhere. We don't want to promote people walking in that direction where there's no sidewalk. So we had a sidewalk, and we took it off the plan after a conversation with the planning board. So I understand there's a change in the very first plan we submitted had the sidewalk on it. This plan got approved without it, So I understand there's a change, and you're right, you have to start somewhere. The fact of the matter, there is no sidewalk on Boulder Point Drive. I don't know, that'll be a hard thing to do, in my opinion. If the town already has other issues on Boulder Point Drive, they're probably gonna address those first. You can't just put a sidewalk adjacent to a road without putting a curb in, and that changes the whole drainage pattern. So, I mean, I'd be surprised if that ever happens. I mean, you don't want a lot of pedestrian traffic on that road, so you don't want to be promoting it. One of the conversations that we had with the Conservation Commission was, is there a way to get a path down through here to Walmart? The answer, and that's something we can explore. We, again, didn't want that to be any type of condition of the permit. It would potentially require another agreement with the conservation to cross through the easement, which I think they'd be very amenable to, but also requires an agreement with Walmart to go up the slope under their parking lot, which may be harder to do. And then you have to build it, and we just have not really looked at that at this point. So that's something that we can look at, that's something that we've talked to Harbor Homes about, and if this project advances, that may be something that's investigated. What we're trying to do right now is get the project off of, square one here, and get them something that they can build. And if it's, if the planning board is going to insist that sidewalk go in, then we'll have to figure out a way to do it. Our preference would be to not have that imposed on us. It's up to you
So
to.
what are the other soft spots financially? I mean, obviously the covered parking.
Well,
is one.
we're dealing with that now. I mean, these are numbers that are, kind of coming in, and we're going through that right now. The building hasn't been fully designed yet, so we have budgets, but, so some of the other allowances are gonna be in the units, in the building. I mean, we're talking overall construction costs. So, the building design just was authorized within the last couple of weeks to get under final design. So we'll be looking at everything. Right now our concern is that we're not gonna be able to do I think we're probably pretty sure we're not gonna be able to do the carports right now in this initial phase. But we want them on the plan. So I don't know, other things are, we wanna get some landscaping in there, but we don't wanna commit to too much because, we'd like to do more than what we have shown on the plan, but we're concerned about that. So I don't know what the other soft spots are, site plan wise.
Does Harbor Homes, have they, on other projects in New Hampshire, come back and installed amenities after the approval,
I
such
don't know
as
the answer to that.
these?
You're not-
Yeah. They've been inner city projects for the most part. I can't think of one that we have come back with in that way. Generally, it's been all part of what we've done up front.
Okay. So what's the feeling amongst the board members here?
I don't think it's a good idea to have a sidewalk to a place where we don't want people walking. What level of preparation for a sidewalk will we be left with? You were saying that you'd have the
Well, we need to.
side of the road wide enough that.
So we have a sidewalk that kind of comes around here, and we have it designed to be to be a grass panel between the curb and the sidewalk of several feet. And so that could continue down along here. By the time it gets down into here, we start getting into some steeper slopes. So we've created a 5-foot panel on the back of the sidewalk before the slope starts. So the sidewalk could come right up to the curb. There'll be a curb there. So the sidewalk can go right up to the curb and go right along the back of the curb the way you'd see it in an urban area. So what will be required is, we'll have to loam and seed that now to get grass, so you'd have to remove the loam, and that's really gives you about it, we can put down, that's really all you need to do, is remove the loam and put down a little bit of gravel and pave. It's a question of what does it even need to be for a sidewalk. You're talking about in the winter condition, you can plow a path. It doesn't need to be paved to be a sidewalk, if that was the concern. It's more about just having the level area where you can walk and not have to go down a slope or something.
If you have a cross-section that shows that proposed berm on the south side of the road, the north side of the road.
I don't think we have a cross-section on the plan right now. We have a grading plan that shows the contours on the plan, which would be the sheet 4, which just shows that we have if you can read the contours, we have a slope that starts 5 feet off of you can add it's really just this section right here where it becomes all critical. The first, 100, 150 feet of the drive.
I think it's unfortunate that we didn't, when Boulder Point went in, that there wasn't a sidewalk to begin with, so we had something to tie these into.
I was just saying, but when do you?
I know, we need it, and we do need to start talking about sidewalks and make sure we have, everything should have a sidewalk, but
So if you had a sidewalk, would it even be plowed, or would the snow even be removed in the wintertime?
If you had a sidewalk, you'd plow it. They're gonna plow the rest of the sidewalk, so there'd be a commitment to plow any sidewalk that's there. I guess my argument, or my thought, which is, it's more, I guess, more of an opinion, just from a professional opinion, and, you know, I'm not make it sound like it's absolute, but there's this expectation, this thought that people are going to walk down to Walmart or walk down to Tractor Supply. They may not do that. You're certainly making it more likely that they will if you put a sidewalk onto Boulder Point Drive. And this driveway is going to have very little traffic on it. The danger is going to be out here, where there's nothing we can do to protect them. So, you know, you're encouraging them to go out to a road that will be unsafe in the winter with ponding conditions. And I mean, we have the letter from the highway department right here with shoulders. So if they're not maintaining that road and keeping the shoulders clear, these people are walking down the road, and that's the danger. Whether we build the sidewalk or not, anybody who's going to go out there is going to be faced with that. If we build the sidewalk, more people are going to go out there, or basically tell them to go out there. That's why I think we shouldn't do it. You know, if people are going to go out there, they're just going to walk down this drive, and they're walking down a paved drive that doesn't have a lot of cars on it. It's 24 feet wide. I mean, there's plenty of room for a car to get by them. There's plenty of visibility here. It's not like they're coming around a corner and going to hit somebody. So I think the safety issue here with someone walking down the drive happens all the time in residential areas with those sidewalks. And so to me, it's from a planning perspective, that'd be my argument for not putting it in. But maybe that doesn't hold.
I mean, from a planning perspective, we've got to be not just looking at your site,
Yeah.
we've got to be looking at the big picture. I tend to agree with you that, yeah, we shouldn't be making a sidewalk to nowhere. I kind of like the idea of having it graded and then ready to go, because we've got to think beyond the, you know, potential owner of this site and whatever's going to happen down the road. But at this point, I just don't think we're doing anybody any favors by placing a bigger burden on them to make something that isn't going to get used or is just dumping people out into a more dangerous site. I don't know.
Which I think is my feeling too, is if there's something there that could be a sidewalk, and hopefully we'll push for, like if Boulder Point has to be redone, that would be an obvious time to get a sidewalk down to wherever it needs to go, I guess Tenny Mountain or the bus stop that someday will bring, whatever. But, I mean, I think that's the kind of thinking that, which is why I think it's important to have we shouldn't be building things without sidewalks someday. But I think that is a good, the area that a sidewalk could be, I think is as good as we could hope for.
So, and we can certainly add that notation to the plan to better depict that as a future sidewalk location.
What do you think, Bill?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what I was offering
So I think the
initially.
consensus is if you show us a grading plan that shows that flat verge,
Yep, that's fine.
you'd be good to go. Any more questions from the board on the site itself? Any questions for Harbor Homes from the board? Seeing none, I think I'd like to open the public hearing now. It's 7:03. And we'd like to hear from any abutters that are in the audience. If there are no abutters, we'd like to hear from anyone that would like to speak in favor of the project, and please come up to the microphone if you'd like to do that.
Frank Miller, and I will speak in favor of the project, which is good 5 years of working on finding a location that's suitable for the number of units. I believe we've gone through several planning board and zoning board decisions and approvals of the larger scale unit, which has been downscaled. Some corporate history on your Boulder Point Drive. When Walmart came in, they had a plan to come in and put in a major road system with sidewalks, which was rejected by our planning board that said focused only onto their facility. And unfortunately, this Boulder Point represents about 1,000 to 1,200 acres of development property in our development area. And we're having problems between strategic planning, which is what a town planner would do, and reactive planning, which this board does with an applicant. So all of your elements of sidewalks, drainage systems, when you're dealing with an individual, it may be functional, but when you put it all together, like the drainage program, it doesn't work with Mother Nature. And so even though each plan individually passes technical specifications for the utilization of it, collectively, it's not quite functional.
Frank, I have a question. You
Yeah.
say that the original Walmart plan showed sidewalks and the
Yeah,
town.
they were going to put in a major road system sidewalk all the way up through this Bolt Point before Spear was up there.
And the town rejected that idea?
Correct, yeah. They said, no, you stick to your own plan. So that's why you have one roadway coming in at one grade point. And of course, you've got that high grade point for Boulder Point, which was a unit, was incomplete design. As you know, the roadway is extremely steep, and the lanes down at the bottom, when attached to Tenny Mountain, are incomplete, and you have erosion problems. And it's actually a safety problem because you can't get over into that turn lane going eastbound without having your wheels drop off the pavement, because that roadway area was not quite wide enough to include that third lane, turn lane. So whereas that roadway design met the criteria at the time and all that, the total utilization of that area, of the number of acres that goes beyond even this application, is going to put obviously more traffic. And you're correct about talking about sidewalks, but for having them to try to put a sidewalk on something, a roadway that isn't to specs for the number of cars per day utilization of that main road, would be a waste of money. Having an area designated on a plan where it could be constructed is appropriate, but I still think that the fact that this now application is reduced from 50 units to 30, the only change from the previous approval was the kitchen, a stove, which changed the designation, which had them go through the process again. So I think this has been a long time thought out. All of the elements of the environmental issues have been properly reviewed several times for multiple approval processes. And I believe that this deserves an approval tonight. It meets all our criteria of what we intended it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Would anyone else like to speak about the project? Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:08 and back to the board for further deliberation. You done?
I'm cool.
Cool. You guys all done deliberating? Do I have a motion? I'll tell you what, I have one more thing to say, actually. What I would like to see in the motion is a mention of working with the town engineer to solve any outstanding problems, and that you do show this flattened verge on the north side of the road. Does that make
To the
sense?
extent that, that might affect the comments that Mr. Fagin made, because I'm not certain that they should be responsible for the town-related problems that occur downstream, that they're not going to contribute to the problem further, but in any event, I would move that we accept this proposal with the update to the proposed future sidewalk location on the plan. And that's it. And any other outstanding exemptions? Do they have to put in any more approvals, DES?
The alteration of terrain.
They have the AOT right there on the table. It's in review, correct, Jeff? That's the only piece that's outstanding that I'm aware of. They passed the zoning board for the variance for the size of the building.
Right.
That was the only local stumbling block, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
Okay, so, do I have a motion to approve this application with the condition that they show a proposed sidewalk on the north side of the road, and that they coordinate with the town engineer on any changes he requests?
Yes.
Is that so moved?
That's a motion, yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Very good, gentlemen.
All right, thank you very
Off
much.
to the races.
Thanks, Jeff. Be in touch with you about the pre-con.
Okay, moving on to our second item. If I can find my agenda.
The parish.
Anybody have an agenda?
We all have our own agendas, Jeff.
Thank you.
There's only one agenda.
Does anyone need an extra one? I just took.
Yeah.
Guy isn't even here and you're stealing his stuff,
I
Rebecca.
know.
Okay, all right. So our second item is a site plan review for the St. Matthew's Church. This is PID 108010. Requesting site plan approval for a 7,350 square foot parish center and related improvements adjacent to the existing church on a 1.2 acre parcel. The property is split zone between multifamily residential zone and civic institutional zone. So the application. Checklist.
I requested 3 waivers, Mr. Chair.
Are those the circled X's?
Yes.
So the waivers appear on the very last, waiver requests appear on the last page. Everybody found that stuff?
So, what's the rest of the sentence on, like, number 1? It seems like that's the tail end of all abutting landowners. What exactly are they requesting? Having to notify?
Having to draw it,
Yeah.
The physical features.
having to
and
draw it,
uses.
show it on the plan.
Okay,
All the abutters have been notified.
okay.
For all 3 of those, I believe, is the same. You guys okay with those waivers? Requests? Rebecca? You okay with them?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to, Brian, I can't read your handwriting in the, I think, assuming that's
Which was that, Rebecca?
the second one.
Okay, the sizes can be scaled off the drawing.
Okay.
the height doesn't really apply in this case.
Okay, thank you. I saw an upside down exclamation point and hot NA, so. Yes, okay.
Okay,
So I would move that we accept this application as complete.
second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Application is complete. Okay, would someone like to come tell us what's going on?
Hi, I'm Roger Dignard from Stone River Architects, and with me this evening is Father Leo LeBlanc from the parish, and also Tim Goldwaith from Meridian Land Services, who prepared the site plans that have been submitted to your department. So what I could do is give you an overview of the project, and I'll try to be brief about this. The site is the existing St. Matthew's Church, now called Holy Trinity Parish. This is the existing building. The site is bounded by Langdon Street and School Street, which dead ends here at the Plymouth State University campus. On the site currently is an existing parish hall at this end, and we're proposing to demolish that parish hall. And what we are proposing to do is a 7,350 square foot, one-story addition to the church and connected to the church for better utilization. There's an existing kitchen and small hall in this building. We'll be also doing a kitchen and a larger hall within this building. And we're also going to relocate the parish offices from the rectory up the street to this location as well. And I'll briefly show you a floor plan as we move along. We did obtain 3 variances for the site, just to remind you of those. One was for a setback on the front streets, because we are fronting 2 streets. So it went from 30 feet to 15 feet. Part of the justification for that is all of the existing structures in that vicinity are closer than 15 feet to the property line. So that seemed to be a comfortable change. And also the existing church is about 15 feet off the property line as well. The other was a quirk, I think, of your last mapping, where the district line bisected the site, and so we needed an approval to actually expand the church. So that was an easy one. The other was that some of the parking may be within 10 feet of adjacent property lines. So on our adjoining boundaries, we're not changing the boundary on this side. This one is being only slightly modified, and also these two are probably changing within a foot or two of what they actually are today. And we're also preserving those trees that exist at those boundaries. So I think those are not significant changes there. In terms of parking on the site, currently there are 56 parking spaces, and with this reconfiguration, we actually achieve 53 parking spaces for a net loss of only 3. And part of making that work is currently there's a parking lot here, but this is a very irregularly shaped space with the current parish hall. So as we remove that, it becomes a much more efficient parking layout, and so we can keep the parking numbers up. And by ordinance, I believe you only need 36 or 37 parking spaces to serve the facility. So we still have a good cushion on the numbers, and they still have the ability to use parking up the street on Langdon Street as well. In terms of site coverage area, the ordinance allows up to a 75% maximum impervious area. The current site is 69% impervious, so we're under the 75. And ironically, in the new configuration, we go down further, will be about 65% impervious. So that also raises the issue of storm drainage on the site. There's currently a network of catch basins and piping on the site. So we believe there is really no increase in surface drainage from this site. And we had meetings earlier with town departments in that regard. There would also be new utility connection for water and sewer, and that would be connecting at Langdon Street and coming through the parish hall addition, and will probably backfeed the church with water, and the church sewer exit currently comes out, and we'd leave that alone. There's one small bathroom in the church now. There are some nice mature trees along the street. We're going to maintain particularly this specimen here, and these trees here, and 5 of the 6 along Langdon Street. Unfortunately, one has to come out in order to bring the sewer and water through at that location. We are proposing to bring back a couple of smaller ornamental trees on this side and some landscaping touching up the more visible sides of the proposed addition as well. Maybe to give you some visuals of the building. I'll use this one to just give you a quick view of what the floor plan looks like, where this is the existing church. We would connect through at this point. The public entry would be here into the parish center. This would be the new church office space. New toilets that would serve the function hall as well as the church. And there'd be another kitchen again to replace the kitchen function from the existing parish center. And the meeting room itself is about 3,000 square feet in size. So it is a one-story plate, excuse me, but we would have a partial basement under this portion of the building for storage, not for occupancy. It should be noted that we don't expect that both the church and the parish center would be simultaneously occupied, so hence the parking we feel would be adequate. It is a one-story building, as I noted, be about a 12-foot plate height, and we did some pretty pictures of what the outside of the building might look like. We haven't really discussed with the parish yet what the actual colors would be, but the material description is in your package. It would be fiber cement siding, a mix of clapboard and shingle, fiberglass windows, wide body trim, and architectural grade asphalt shingles for the roof. This is a view if you're going north on Langdon Street. There actually would be a house here blocking some of this view, but you'd see the parish center from that corner, and as you drive along the street on Langdon, that's more of a front-on view of the new parish center. And then if you were inside the parking lot looking at the entry to the parish center, it would be that view over there. I could hand this to you if you want to take a closer look.
Okay.
No, you're good? So that's a quick overview of the project. So if you have any questions of me or of the civil engineer or Father Leo, we'd gladly try to address them for you.
So you did say you talked to the highway department about drainage?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so I misread this previous note from Joe about the, his concern of the roof and parking lot handling the drainage, and your answer to that is, I guess, it's less impervious service than before.
Yes.
Have you seen his comment?
I did not see that, no. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. How many seats does the church have?
They did a survey at Christmas, which is maximum capacity, and the maximum occupancy at a Christmas service is 220. In terms of fixed seating, it's about 132 in the pews, and then 4 wheelchair spots. So when we're talking about 220, that's a standing room only crowd. And that includes a full choir and the presiders for the service as well.
Right, so Brian was telling me that it's one parking space for every 6 seats, I believe, in the
Correct.
church. So you're well over that.
Correct. Yeah, that would be a net requirement of 37 spaces, and we have 53 spaces available. Plus, there would continue to be access for the overflow up the street on Langdon.
Any questions from the board?
I thought it was only a standing room only for Christmas. I didn't know if there were seats. No, I'm only kidding. But that's, I spent many a year along the sides of the church, but I did have a question about the floor plan, and thankfully you brought that, so that was nice. And there was that, what's that little square stone-filled thing that?
It's a dumpster pit.
It's a dumpster
Oh,
pit?
yes, the dumpster.
Oh, pad. Oh, okay.
Currently, the dumpster is in this location, and what we're proposing to do is to place it here
Oh,
with
left.
a screen enclosure.
Well, what's that on the left there, though?
Oh, there is some surface drainage that rolls down from the other properties and onto this property
Yeah, okay.
currently. So what the engineers developed was a little more of a stone riprap to help
All right.
contain and break it up so it's not washing across the parking lot. So again, it's not a change in volume coming onto the site, but
Just
it's
trying to
trying
deal
to
with
better address
Yep.
that volume.
Okay. That's it for me.
Looks good to me.
That's good to me, too.
Do I have a motion?
Who's open the
Public hearing.
Oh, better do that first. That's the second time I've done that.
You're testing me. See if I know.
Okay, so 7:26.
You pass.
Any abutters here that would like to speak about this project? Seeing none, anyone would like to speak in favor of it, please come up and tell us about it.
Frank Miller again. I'm not a member of the church, but this church has done a lot of things with the previous buildings, and I believe this new rendition that would help utilize their resources to help the community would be to the benefit of the people. And I'd like to recommend approval.
Thank you, Frank. Anyone else like to speak?
My parishioners want to see me on TV. That's the only reason. As I approve this project, will give us the ability to do some programming we're not able to do. Our space has been very limited as far as breakfasts and other meals. Also, other functions, we're very, very crowded, so it gives us that availability. Also, with the two buildings together, it'll give parents, we only have a couple of screaming babies in the parish. It'll give them ability to go into the actual center and calm the children down. It's only a couple, so that's, it's just, by and large, it's really, really an exciting time for the parish and in a way for the community too, because we're very involved with different aspects like the Christmas baskets that go out to the poor are done in the current parish hall. And if you imagine 200 baskets going out to people in that little hall, the community closet does a miraculous job. So it'll be a lot easier in the coming years. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Seeing no comments, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:28. Now, ready.
Well, actually, I'd bring it back to the board. I only thought that there was one screaming baby, but you say two?
Probably two now, we're growing.
Okay.
I had a question, Roger. The connection between the church and the hall is fully enclosed, it's not a breezeway.
Completely enclosed.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept this project as presented?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Very nicely done, I thought.
Thank you.
Very nicely done. Okay. The last item is a boundary line adjustment between Mr. Gerald Boyle at PID 108-109 and the town of Plymouth at PID 108-110. And the application, I believe, any comments on the completeness of the application?
I just have one comment on in the agenda, that looks like the property owner's first name was spelled incorrectly. Looks like it should be Gerard instead of
Oh.
Gerald.
My mistake.
Just want to make sure that gets read correctly into the,
Everybody knows him as Jerry. I figured it was Gerald. It kind of looks like I'm the presenter by default.
Yeah, I guess, looks like, Frank, you want to present this?
So, was it Kevin was supposed to come, or?
Yeah, I guess so.
I thought he was going to be here.
Or Jack,
Check
no,
confirm.
Jack,
Yeah,
yeah.
they all knew that the meeting was tonight, the closing on the property is tomorrow, and they know they needed to have the signed copies. Well, Kevin did his, I have the Mylar and the plats, if it's approved.
Okay, well, I couldn't understand the drawing. Can you explain it?
Sure.
Oh, wait, before, well, you go ahead and do that, and then we'll vote on the completeness of the application, unless you guys want to do that first.
Rather faint. There's here's Highland, the fire station, the dormitory, the Boyle House. The original property line was alongside here, which left the patio and the shed on the town of Plymouth property. So as one of our conditions when we purchased the property would be to move that over onto the Boyle property per se. So they struck a new line from here, which is, 10 feet away from the original, to a point here, which already existed, because the property used to go that way. And then this portion in the back, from the very faint line there, goes this way. I mean, I keep getting the numbers backwards. This portion, which belongs to the town of Plymouth, goes that way. And this, which went with the Boyle property, actually goes to the town of Plymouth. So in essence, there's no increase in acreage on either property.
So just swap.
Just swapping and moving the boundary. So the developed patio would stay with the residents.
so that house sold, and now that's the
Yes,
closing
it's-
tomorrow.
it's- Right.
Okay, so, let's vote on the completeness of this application.
I don't think so. I move that this application is complete.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay, so we've got an application. Seems pretty straightforward. Any questions from the board?
Chris, who seconded it? Was that you?
No, it's me.
Was you?
Well, I know some of the fire employees tend to have like barbecues at the barbecue area, and they'll probably lose that ability to do that now.
Barbecues have wheels these days, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it was a nice little area that they had.
Yeah, it
there.
was. It was real nice, and I could see why they wanted to retain that with the property.
And now we just got this really long piece.
Yeah. Well, They got to dry their hoses somewhere, sir.
Those are my only comments.
Any other comments? Okay, in that case, I'm going to open a public hearing at 7:34. Are there any abutters here that would like to speak? Is there anyone else here that would like to speak about this project? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing also. 30 seconds later, back to the board. Are you all inclined to have a vote?
I move that we accept this application, or approve this application as proposed.
Have a second?
I
All
second.
those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Okay, that's done. Okay, new business. We have a request from Alexandra Disney and Kurt Schuler, Holderness. And I'm going to read this out loud to you guys and then pass it around.
We have copies.
Oh, you guys got copies, okay, so you're good to go. So they're gonna buy the 24 acres of land that's, Bill Clark, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Bob Fry's property.
All right. And they wanna know if there's any problem putting a agriculture business in there. It's agricultural, right, all of it?
It is.
So I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be not,
Right, but and going through it when they were talking to me at the counter, you know, you go through the book to see what approved uses are.
right,
This one came out to be neither fish nor fowl. It's bigger than a home occupation, just because of the square footage involved. And it will be definitely a commercial application, so I directed them that no matter what, whether they visit the ZBA or not, they will come for site plan review.
right.
But they needed the determination ahead of time because there wasn't any good guidance in the ordinance as to what they were proposing. They weren't going to be using it, obviously it's a tree service, so you don't do that on your own property, but it's not really an office use because you usually come in and you know, exchange money and you get paper or something else when you leave. And because he wanted to locate, you know, co-locate his residence with the garage, you know, there would be a certain amount of people coming and going to man the trucks and take them out, you know, when they were called. So, I mean, that clearly is the commercial end of it. But the only things that we had in the zoning ordinance was truck terminal, which it most definitely is not. And, you know, nothing else really spoke to what that was, what, you know,
Not really
how their
forestry,
use
not
works.
really.
Yeah. You know, it's correctly zoned for it, and at least as far as the ability of the agricultural zone to hold a lot of different uses. But it goes back to the question that was asked by the zoning board chair that we covered at the last meeting, that when there are things in there that nobody can determine, it falls on the shoulders of the planning board to say what the use is.
What, did we have to call, well, the Three Lakes, what's the, what do we call that? Or did we need to call it anything? Was,
Related
change of use?
landscaping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it,
For
is
site
it
plan
the,
review.
is it the fact that there's a residence there that's kind of tripping it up, or?
Well, the fact that it's not a full-blown, he's not storing anything beyond his vehicles. So you imagine there are trailers, a crane, no earth-moving equipment, I wouldn't think, other than maybe a rubber-tired backhoe. But you know, he's not really doing his business on the property, though he's using the property as part of his commercial application. So, you know, and I don't have the answer to your question, Bill.
Yeah, because it's similar.
Similar, or like the
It's very
536
similar.
prep on Route 3, south of town.
Right, and then when you combine it with the residents too, it kind of throws things out. That's why it's not a home occ. Just based on the square footage, it's greater than 20% of the proposed area of the house.
Have the residents been alerted, like, that they know this is?
No, that would be at the, at site plan review. Years ago, that property had been subdivided, and then all the approvals lapsed. You know, so at this point, there's a 25-foot road that also serves as a right-of-way, because the properties are stacked in there. There's the frontage piece, there's this, like a ribbon that runs along the northerly side of it. There's a, once you get beyond Bill Clark's property, there's a right-of-way that goes across on another piece of property that, and the right-of-way serves a third piece that's landlocked because of wetland issues at Reservoir Road. So the only access to it actually is around the back. I don't know the buildability of it, but it's a lot of record.
So this piece of property has a right-of-way on it that extends to those back lots, is that what you're saying?
It is the property of the back lot, the former subdivision in the back. That
Oh,
is,
this is in the back.
it's all
so-
one single 24-acre property that has a very 25-foot of frontage on Reservoir Road.
Well, I don't know, it seems to me that it is a commercial service because that's where the business is located.
It's not where the services are happening.
It's not like what?
It's not where the services are happening.
Right, but that's like saying, the UPS trucking terminal is not a trucking terminal because the services are being delivered to people's driveways. I mean, it's a place where there'll be trucks parked. I'm not saying, I think it's perfectly permissible to do it. here.
Right, but except I think it fails the definition.
Yeah, the
Commercial service is a business which provides or sells a service rather than a product, such as but not limited to barber, hairdresser, beauty parlor, shoe repair, shoe shine. And those are the services that are purchased and at the site, rather than.
So there's another definition that covers things that are purchased at the site, right? Like baked goods and,
Well, no, if you look at it, I mean, it's not mercantile, where you leave with an object.
where are you, Brian? What page?
I am on page 6. Commercial services are more, office use would be insurance, which is kind of a commercial service. But,
Different page 6. Are you in the zoning ordinance?
yes, that's what I have, in the definition.
I've got page, the commercial service. have
Oh, I
on
know it
page-
happened. I took the one that had
Which
the
page are
blown
you
up
on?
pagination on it.
I have page 5 for commercial service definition, and page 17 has the
Oh,
list of
okay.
commercial uses.
And
And what was the other one you said, Rebecca?
Page 17 has the list of commercial uses.
Oh, right.
And there's no definition for truck terminal,
that's what I was gonna ask, so,
which just makes the cheese more binding, because you can't compare the two.
Frank may offer some clarification.
So P is permitted?
Correct.
So commercial service is permitted in agriculture.
Frank is,
Yes.
I don't know if you want to entertain Frank's.
Frank,
Yes.
dive in.
The agricultural industry, the sector of industry is 135 businesses associated with the agricultural business, the industry, and that's what is termed to be an accessory business. And of course, any accessory business, anyone being in business, is a commercial venture. Other than meeting the requirements of physical locating buildings, roads, and other items on the land, which would be in accordance with our zoning regulation. This person who is doing business as an accessory to the agricultural business, co-locating their equipment and/or an office, is a normal utilization of accessory business in an agricultural zone. So, like I say, there are 135 of those types of businesses associated with the agricultural industry as a whole. So this meets the criteria of
Right.
what we would do in our zoning ordinance for.
I agree. So what we're trying to do here is decide what category this falls under. Is that correct?
So,
That is correct.
sorry, I interrupted.
No, I wasn't.
So how is this different than somebody that maybe owns a painting business and has a truck that they use to paint other people's houses that they park in their driveway overnight?
No different.
So it's really just, there are gonna be more trucks in the yard.
And
Well,
how
it's
is it
percentage.
different?
It's about size.
How,
about
yeah,
size.
how is it different from a farm that has a bunch of tractors and?
Because they do it all on site.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
It seems to me it falls under the definition of commercial service.
okay.
I mean, I think it.
By
also-
broadening that, with what Frank had brought in as far as, there are, you know, I think the failure here is that we don't have a definition for every type of commercial service.
But that's
So
okay.
there's different
I mean,
scopes, yes, and if you determine that it's actually a commercial
Okay,
service.
so what else could it be in our list of uses?
I don't think anything else fits in the commercial.
Nothing else fits,
And that
right?
was the thing, the only thing that I could see was truck terminal, because it had the word truck in it. But it's not what you think of as a truck terminal, and then there's no definition for truck terminal in the ordinance. So,
We need to take notes on this because some more of the interesting holes in our zoning ordinance.
So what we need to do is generate a letter saying that the planning board finds that this is a commercial service,
correct,
and you can go ahead and submit your
right, with the caveat that being commercial service, it will bring it back to the board for
site plan review. So there'll be all kinds of things about, are you gonna run that chipper late at night? How
Yes.
big the trucks are gonna be? Are you gonna store pulp logs? Now, there'll be all that kind of stuff that,
Right, and
People
they
wanna
touched
know
a
about.
little on the scope in their request,
Yeah.
which was a little bit more broad than what was given to me. Not, I mean, it was more informative than the conversation that I had.
right? So you guys wanna do a letter tonight on this? Yes? Is there any
Well, we
reason-
want to do a letter, it's just whether we want to do it tonight.
Yeah,
That's
right,
even the
yeah.
second point.
All right. Who wants to, I'll write a letter.
You write a letter and you'll do it next time?
I will write a letter and email
No,
it.
these guys need to know so they can buy the.
No, I know
product,
that, yeah.
right? So-
Certainly, I mean, I could gin it up tomorrow and email it to you if you'd like.
Sounds great.
I'll just put it in, you know, kind of reflecting back the conversation that was here and the ultimate decision, you know, and
Okay, so let's do that.
And I did want to say that it looks like they could be potential new residents of Plymouth, and we do need planning board members, so.
I don't know if you
another
put that.
condition.
Yeah, I don't think so. You can't put that in the letter.
Oh, we're definitely gonna put that in there. Of course, they have to recuse themselves from the.
Right.
From the site plan review, yeah.
That's okay. We try. All right, any other new business tonight?
Yes. Officer slate. Is that where we are? Officers? Or-
No, you can't vote tonight about officers. Well, I guess you could.
Well, no, I just want to put that out as an issue, and
Okay.
we talked about this a little bit before the meeting, but do we have to do that on the, does it have to be on the agenda? Is that the,
It can be taken up at the next regular meeting.
okay.
It's not a public hearing type of thing. It's internal to the board. Actually, it could be done at the work session,
Okay.
but, you know, it's entirely up to whoever might be the next chair.
Well, I think we just need to figure out if we're going to just have an acting chair or a
Vote anyone.
vote in, so.
I say, put them in there, none of this temporary stuff.
Yeah, I would have to agree with the chair on that.
Right.
In for a penny, in for a
Aye,
pound.
yeah.
I mean, it's not like the options are overwhelming. Yeah.
Okay, any other new business? Any comments from the public before?
Well,
we
of
adjourn?
course. And a continuation of this discussion about agricultural use. In a review on the uses of our profile of our use plan and the zoning ordinance, you have internal recreational facilities and external recreational facilities, internal commercial business, external, like a car, Meredith Ford has their stuff outside. And the same thing with agricultural, external is cornfield, and internal would be a flower place that grows flowers inside. Obviously, that's a function of the site plan review utilization. But like I say, a lot of people don't realize how involved on the accessory business side agricultural represents to the town. It's by utilization of land, it's the number 4 item in our makeup of our town. Academics being the first, medical the second, retail sales and service, and then the agricultural industry is our number 4 leading industry in this town. So obviously the elements within land use, description terms of types of business, I get a little irritated with trying to get people to realize if you're in business, it's commercial. So that word commercial and how we have it in our zoning ordinance, I think trips up the board in a play on words. But obviously, if you're not in business, you're at home, because you're not supposed to be doing business at home. That's a non-commercial event. And anything else, and of course now we have labels of our zone, like the village commercial zone, highway commercial zone, and the industrial commercial zone. And if you look at the use layout of it, a lot of it doesn't make any sense, because I can show you sections where one commercial use is permitted in one area, but the same thing 3 lines down, it's not permitted. So like, and the problem is, of course, our zoning ordinance is from 1961, and boundaries, use, and things have changed over the years, and our descriptions of uses in the zoning ordinance have not kept pace, which puts you, the board members, on the spot to try to figure out the mechanics of an application. But anyway, like I say, the accessory business, and in the North American Industry Classification System, you have the primary industry, and then you have the accessory industry to that industry. So when a person files for a business, that filing down in Concord, they get that 5-digit code that puts them in that category. And that's how your insurance and all of your tax structure and all your other legal stuff is focused on that 5-digit code.
Thanks, Frank. Well, before we say goodnight, I want to say thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure working with everybody. And I'm not leaving right this second, so I'll see you guys around town.
Good. You're showing up Monday, right? The Board of Selectmen?
Oh, yes, I'll come Monday night. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you,
thank
Steve.
you.
You did a hell of a job.
Yeah,
Lot of
you
fun.
did.
Big shoes to fill.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, if there are no objections, we are adjourned.